Well, Mayor Zach, welcome back to it's Mayor's Monday at WSAU.com. It's a little chilly today to be outside, but we've got a project that we've been talking about all summer long, and it's finally completed. And you told me you just couldn't wait to show it off.
That's right. That's why we're here. We're about 95% of the way complete. Weather, and early cold spell really delayed our ability to. We're actually standing in Demetz Park for some frame of reference.
Yeah.
The main features of this park, as with all of our riverfront work this summer, was to deal with the riverbank. Over 100 years ago, the riverbank wall was installed, and in some sections it had failed. So in major flooding events, we had started to lose some of the riverbank to the river and through erosion and just the common flooding events. So that was the core priority of this project, was to stabilize the riverbank, which brought a lot of riprap features to the riverfront. In addition, we included a lot of other recreational and park features. So standing right behind me is this very unique architectural feature, which actually serves as a shade structure as well. So on summer sunny days, we've got people wanting to have events and parties down here. They can do so under the shade of the structure. Why I say it's 95% of the way complete is we don't actually have our river railing for the path that goes underneath the Riverview Expressway here in the city, nor do we have any of the park features or furnishings installed. So behind me there'll be picnic tables, trash and recycling receptacles, park benches, and all those sorts of things. Another cool feature of the project is our fitness stations. So the leadership group that came together and said we really would like to put fitness and workout stations in the park. Those actually have not been delivered to the city, and those will be installed either throughout the winter or in the spring, depending on our staff availability. But that was a project that was fundraised by a number of community members.
And I'll take the camera here and just kind of turn around here so you can see what we're talking about there by the riverbank stabilization area there. You kind of see the railing is in as you go underneath the expressway there. So a little bit of the railing is there, but you folks can kind of see the way that the concrete is creating that barrier there for the river, and that's what you're talking about when you mean the stabilization, correct?
That's right, yeah. So you've got the stabilization, and the whole riverbank is actually now re-riprap. So when you look over my left shoulder, all of that riverfront has all got new riverbank stabilization. We actually removed the old river wall and installed a new riprap structure that'll actually withstand any flooding events. And a lot of folks say, well, why did you put park features in areas that are going to flood? Well, part of it is actually the feature of the fact that those amenities are intended to hold the riverbank in place.
Mm-hmm.
All of the concrete was all reinforced, so that way when you get regular flooding events over the next coming 100 years, the intent is that it'll withstand those floods. All of the features in the park are all handicap accessible. So folks previously really couldn't get into the park if they were in a wheelchair or any other had some other mobility concerns. So that's all addressed in this park enhancement here. And then even when you talk about the underbridge connection, now residents, whether they're on foot or on bike, will be able to cross the Riverview Expressway, which is a 4-lane divided highway in the city, which is not pedestrian friendly to cross today. So that was a major enhancement that folks can now get to downtown on foot or on bike, or they can get to the airport or other businesses south of the expressway on foot or on bike.
And remind us now, because this actually kind of connects a couple other features of your trail system in the city. How many miles of trail do you have now connected through either bikeways, walkways, runways throughout Wisconsin Rapids?
Well, we've got over 25 miles of trails identified throughout the city. How many of them are actually rec trails kind of is of debate, just because engineering standards call for them to be an 8-foot wide trail in order for them to be designated as rec. And a 5-foot sidewalk generally is the width of a standard sidewalk. But now this connection connects all the way through downtown and all the way into the village of Buren to the north, and then to the south, people can go up to the expressway, cross the expressway now, and head as far south as Port Edwards and Nakusa, all via without having to be on the road or share the road with vehicles. So it's a major safety and recreational benefit added to the community.
Yeah, and I know it's a project that we've been talking about it kind of all summer, and it's something that you personally have been pretty proud of as well, because you're a bike enthusiast yourself as well. You like to ride your bike to work and through downtown. So this is, not only for the city, but for you, this is a big project as well.
Right. We continuously hear that residents that are seeking to move to communities to take job offers or to raise their family want a very diverse amount of recreational opportunities. That traditional facilities are not enough anymore, and bears repeating. I've said it before. Our Wisconsin River section is one of the most unique sections along the Wisconsin River. It's urbanized, at least throughout much of Wisconsin Rapids, and park-like settings on the other side. That our stewardship of that asset is really important in order to retain these beautiful spaces, or we will lose them in the common occurrence of major flooding events as we go forward.
And you really found that out this summer as well, because this summer was not a common summer as far as climate goes. We had a lot of big rain events. We had some flooding in areas too, whether it was here or whether it was in Madison. So you really kind of found out this summer just how important that project is. So the timing of it was almost perfect.
Exactly, and actually that was part of the delay is when they were working in the north end of the project limits downtown, that there was some flooding events that kept them from getting some of their landscaping and finishing work done. But all in all, what is a kind of a drab straw, we got the seed barriers down now. Come next year this time, it's going to be a very beautiful park with a lot of furnishings and a lot of amenities for visitors and residents alike to enjoy.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that next summer, because obviously we can see here that the foundation has been laid. The project is, as you said, 95% completed, so it looks great right now. It's going to look even better, once the warmer weather comes back around. Talking about some of the city budgets and things like that you've been working on. Almost completed. You're in the final stages of that. Just give us an update on where that project stands.
So our primary city operating budget for 2019 is complete. Our tax rate through revaluation actually decreased about 3% overall. So because we captured new value and there was some new construction throughout the city's mill rate actually went down about 50 cents per thousand. So for folks that are really concerned about what's that tax bill going to look like when it comes out in mid-December, so that's a point to mention. Overall, operationally, we didn't make a lot of changes going forward. One of the new programs we're launching, and we'll talk a lot more about as we go forward, is the automated garbage collection service. We're finally going to switch over to automated garbage collection, and it's because of the life of our garbage trucks are coming due in their life cycle and their replacement. Major fire engine purchase, $750,000 for another fire engine that's going to replace one of our older aging fleet. Fire vehicles is another point in our operating budget. And then Riverbank Phase 2, which will take us through downtown, and we'll talk more about that in future projects, but that was in part funded by the state. 50% of a number of the improvements for this park were funded through the state, as well as 50% of Phase 2 that'll be coming in 2019.
So that's something for folks to look forward to. You don't always get to hear that, taxes are going down, and we might be getting a little more with a little less out of the residents, and that's something that's obviously on you to try and navigate. So it's got to be good news when you can deliver that to your constituents.
It is, and it's always a balancing act. I mean, we generally budgets, unless you're going to reduce staffing levels, are not going to go down. I mean, materially, people's taxes are not going to change unless you make drastic cuts to your operations. And frankly, we continue to hear from residents that they're very satisfied with the level of service that we provide. And if we were to pare back our staffing levels, it may not be received very positively.
No doubt about that. And people always want to see that same level of consistency. So it's good that you were able to do that. Of course, one of the things that's changed since the last time we talked to you, we just had an election. We know we're having a new governor coming into office next January. Of course, he's making promises about roads and things like that, infrastructure projects. Have you had a chance to think about that yet, or maybe even reach out to folks in the Evers camp about how that might affect the Wisconsin Rapids in the near future?
We're watching it very closely because, leading up to the election, we were messaging very strong that cities and villages across Wisconsin really needed additional resources to maintain their existing roadways, not to mention do major reconstruction of those roadways. So kicking the can wasn't a sustainable solution for Wisconsin cities, and we've been ground zero for that. We've got a couple of connecting highways through the city that are beyond their expiration or their intended useful life. So we're going to need to do some major maintenance projects, which as state highways, we hope that the state will participate and be a partner on, because locally we just can't settle the cost or bear the burden ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Just asked Mayor Bob McManus over in Marshfield how that can go sometimes, right, with the Center Avenue project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big projects, very expensive. But they last decades, generations, and so they're big investments, and so how you approach them. So we're very optimistic that the Evers administration and working with the legislature can come forward with some solutions ultimately to fund the state's obligations around the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I think one thing that, be that Democrat, Republican, independents alike, has been talking about is the possibility of the gas tax. Not a $1 gas tax like we were hearing during the campaign, but even just a nickel or so. I know it's something that Robert Mulkey up in Wausau has endorsed. I'm not going to ask you to endorse it or not right off the gate, but is that something that you think that the state or the folks could maybe get behind?
Well, we haven't enacted a wheel tax here because we haven't really studied the issue in complete form, but at the end of the day, you can't continue to maintain the system without additional new money. Costs to do business increase every year. I don't care if it's just economic adjustments, but our own wages or benefits, other costs of living adjustments, all have a material effect on your cost of doing business. So either you're going to consciously do less year after year, or you're going to continue to maintain your existing obligations, and that comes with additional new money, and that just is the nature of the beast. So I support a diverse amount of revenue streams, whether it's gas tax or wheel taxes or any of the sort. At the end of the day, we have committed to the system that we have, we're committed to build it, we have to maintain it. And I think we're optimistic that in Wisconsin Rapids and our budget in particular, that we've done a great job of maintaining our roadways. Generally, our roads are at or above the state's average when comparing to other municipalities. So we believe we've done a great job. Always could we do better? Of course. We don't. If we had an unlimited source of money, our roads would be perfect. But that's not the reality. So it's all about balancing priorities, and I believe our budget for 2019 does that going forward.
Anything else that you'd like to add then before we let you go on this little chilly day?
It's cold. I think we told our listeners enough. I mean, we stand across from Aspirus Riverview Hospital, which is finishing up with phase 1, and they're going to be going into phase 2 of their project here, and we can talk about that in future announcements.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate the time as always, Mayor Zach, and again, we look forward to what the next chat will bring.
Very good. Thanks, Michael.